do have an announcement. Chris, why don't you come on up?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Still Hosen. So I'm here partially representing the marriage ministry, so our other halves, right? And I'm going to tell you how you can turn a 1-point evening into a 5-point evening. Woo. So next Friday, on November 22nd, we're having a date night. So it's going to be here at Memorial Park. Bring your wife. There's food. There'll be some fun. We'll have a little bit of content. And so if you make that decision early and let your wife know, that's a point, right? Now, what's going to happen is she's going to call her friend, and that's a second point, because she starts to live into that whole thing. Then she's going to call her mother and say, oh, guess what? We're going Friday night. We're going to a date night. That's 3 points. And then, come Wednesday, she's going to remember again, oh, Friday night, we're going out again. That's 4 points. And then the day comes, you get to go and spend a great evening with your wife. There's a 5-point night for you. So make the decision early. Come next Friday night, November 22nd. Love to see you guys there. Question.
How many points are getting the honey-do list then?
Yeah, well, I think that should be -5, right? All right, thanks a lot, Corey.
All right, can we bring our girlfriends also?
Yeah.
Chris and his wife Margie are head of the marriage ministry here. And I've got to tell you, if that's something you have not looked into, it's worth your time. It's a great ministry. And, whether your marriage is, and most of us probably are a little bit in between, right? And I'm telling you, give it a go. Give it a go for sure. All right. Give a shout out and thanks again to all the guys that showed up early, dark and early, and we're here cooking breakfast this morning. And guys, for those of you that were here, thank you. And we had a cleanup crew, and if you'd like to join that one-man cleanup crew, we spray all the pans of bacon with Pam so they clean up nice and easy and fast. If you'd like to wander back there afterwards and help out, that'd be great. Thank you. And also our music crew this morning. Wow, what all right, well, yeah, come on up, Dave. He's going to introduce our morning speaker, who he had breakfast with a couple weeks ago, and you're in for a treat this morning.
Good morning. I was thinking at that breakfast about our CLC group. Many of you did the leadership concepts, and what they did at that time, one of the things, they did a bio for everybody. And what they had was, it was called fence posts, because what they were the high points of their life. And what they will do is look back at those fence posts and then realize it's like a straight line, often to where you are today. I was thinking about that when we were talking with her, because then he'll tell you his bio. His story was really, really interesting at many levels, but as he indicated at the end of our breakfast, everything seemed to be pointing to where he is right now. So he is the director of the Uncommon Grounds Café, which is a cafe down in Aliquippa that reaches out to what they call the least, the last, and the lost. So they serve foods, they have programs for men, for women, and they have programs all week long. And this church has actually supported them quite a bit. I know the children's ministry, they send a group down every year, sometimes every year, but sometimes frequently. The summer search group goes down and helps work. And of course, we're going to encourage the guys here to participate in that as well. Herb will talk about that more. But so Herb is the director of the Uncommon Grounds Café, and he's also the local director of the Church Army USA. And he'll be happy to tell you about that right now. Herb?
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I don't need that.
You don't need that.
Good. I mean, I
I've been in some places where people have listened to loud music or loud planes, and so their hearing has kind of deteriorated, so I just wanted to make sure. So yeah, my name is Herb Bailey. A little bit about myself. I'm a child of God. That's always where I want to start, is I'm a child of God. Married. Been married for a whole lot of years, not as long as some of you guys, and longer than some of you other guys who are starting over or just getting started. My wife and I have been married for 21 years. We have 3 birth children, 2 together, 1 outside of our union. We fostered over 22 children together collectively. I was born, I have 2 grandchildren, 2 grandsons, Thaddeus and Langston, 4 and almost 2. They live in Nashville with their mom and their dad. And my son-in-law's mother lives in a mother-in-law, appropriately named mother-in-law apartment in her house. That's a good name for it, right? Because that's who she is. Anyway, I was born in Detroit, Michigan, to Herbert and Barbara. They call me Little Herb. So I know, right? They call me Little Herb. I wasn't sure what to do with that for a long time. I just went with it, and eventually I outgrew the name. I'm 6'7", 6'6" and a half, 6'7", depending on if it's early in the morning or in the evening. Gravity has taken its hold. Let's see, I'm in a motorcycle club called the Remnant Sons. I'm the president of the Beaver County chapter. I'm actually in the club with Dale. My road name is Sequoia. Yeah, right? Who wouldn't have thought that? Let's see. So I wear rings as part of whatever. It's part of the we all have costumes, right? Like, it's a weird thing. Like, when I was a kid, I liked superheroes. Anybody else like superheroes when you were a kid? And they all had costumes, right? Whether it was like Batman had a costume that he got dressed up in, and eventually his suit that he wore in public was his costume. And his real identity was Batman. You know what I mean? Like, at some point it switched. And so for me, this is, I see it as a costume. This is not my identity. These are, all these things I've given you so far are backstage passes that give me access to the world, right? So I can share the gospel. Other things about me, I'm an agent of reconciliation, I'm an ambassador. What else? Wow. Talking about myself is weird. Somebody had a bio yesterday. I was at the Rotary Club, and they read the bio. I should have brought it because, of course, it's asleep. Wife and I moved here 6 years ago. We moved back and forth. We lived in Nashville for a while. I met her there. I was born in Detroit. Moved to Nashville when I was 11, between 11 and 12. Grew up with my mom and stepdad. My folks divorced when I was 2. When I was 3, my mom was ministered to by my aunt and uncle. She accepted Christ, started going to church at 4 years old. Waited until I was 17. I graduated early because I was bored. I would get in a lot of trouble. I would be the kid in the back of the class, whispering really loud. I could not whisper like normal people whispered. I'm not sure if that's a condition, but I couldn't whisper. They always call my name out. Like, that was Johnny, that wasn't me. Let's see, it was horrible. So when I graduated high school, at 17, I moved out. Unfortunately, I know we have a lot. How many veterans do we have in here? Yeah, okay. So I just want to apologize now. I signed up to be in the Navy. I took the ASVAB, and I was going to go in as an E4. Doing nuclear work, and when I graduated high school, I started growing my hair out and started partying and doing drugs, and I did not want to go be conformed to anyone else's rules. So from 17 through 27, drugs, sex, rock and roll were my opioids. Right? Those are the things that I soothed myself with. The biggest issue I had was my father wasn't actually in my life. He stayed in Nashville, stayed in Detroit, and we moved to Nashville. My stepdad married my mom, and I was like the extra thing that came along with this beautiful woman. My mom, 6 foot, beautiful lady. So I kind of grew up in that tension of not really fitting anywhere, wanting to be a part of the Jordan family. That's my stepdad's name, but I'm not a Jordan, I'm a Bailey. I want to be a part of my Baileys, the Bailey family, but they're in Detroit, and my dad remarried and had 2 boys. So whenever I would go visit them, I was, oh, you're little Herb, which is why I've outgrown that. Or you're BJ's son, which is my mom's nickname. So I kind of grew up with that other, like I'm on the outside of something. I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and I said, you know what? This is part of the reason why I did the things that I did, was I didn't feel like I belonged. I was looking for a place to belong, to feel like I had purpose, and I didn't realize that I was actually prepared to stand out. I didn't realize that for a long time. But here's the thing. There was a seed that was planted in me by a youth pastor when I was 15. And his day job, because it was a small church, his day job was resurfacing driveways. You know, the blacktop. And so he would take me and some of the other youth out, and we would work with him. He literally hired us to work. And so I was being discipled unbeknownst to me while I was spreading black tar on driveways and ruining sneakers. It was not fun to ruin sneakers. I wear a size 15 shoe, and those are more expensive. I don't know if you know that or not, but 15s, like if you wear anywhere from like a 9 to like a 13, you're okay. When you get over 14, 15, they cost more. And my parents weren't happy about that. Anyway, because I wasn't paying for it. Anyway, that seed planted in me, I didn't realize that I was going to be in a place where I needed other people to speak in my life. I didn't realize that. So from 17 through 26, I just ran as fast and as hard as I could. I got married, I had a kid at 19, had my oldest daughter at 19 in Nashville. I asked her to get married, and she said no. I thought that's the honorable thing to do. You impregnate a girl, you marry her. She said no. Praise God. So God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers, right? She didn't want to marry me, so I moved to Nashville at 20, and I managed a clothing store in the mall. My first job out of high school was a roofer, and I realized very quickly that I was not made to work outside. God gave me a brain and a weak back. So I got a job in the air conditioning, whatever. Judge me if you want to, I don't care. Judge me. I ride a motorcycle across country. Yeah, exactly. So literally, my back is a lot. It's way down, picking up stuff. Anyway, so I married a woman in Memphis with the intent of finding someone to be a mother to my child, because my daughter's mother is an addict. She's still in active addiction since 18 years old, and now she's 40-something years old. So she's been in active addiction off and on for well over 20, almost 30 years. So, married a woman with the intent of, hey, you can be the mother of this child. That's also not a good reason to get married. Hey, I have a daughter here. Would you like to come and be her mother? And oh, by the way, you can marry me. She didn't like that. And I think she found out until she left. So, started the band. I was working for a doctor's office. It was great. I was a phlebotomist. I was a medical assistant. I was drawing blood. I was working for a gynecologist. I can tell you some, we're all men here. I can tell you some stories of things that you don't want to know about the female anatomy. I learned way too much right then. It was, put that back. I don't want to see that ever again. It was really bad. But that job. Whew, sorry. There was one time, a woman had, there were two times, I'll tell you two stories. I wasn't a believer, so they were more funny back then. Oh, actually more funny now, because, anyway. My job was to clean the implements that they use to give a woman her yearly exam, right? And so I would go into I clean them, and I put them in the drawer, and the woman was already on the examining table. You guys are going to judge me, I feel it already. And I wear a lab coat because I'm a guy, and the stereotype is if you're a male wearing a lab coat, you are the doctor. Exactly. Here I am attacked, walking into the room, and the woman said, "Oh, are you going to check my gorilla?" No. No, I'm not. I'm not sure why you call it a gorilla. Neither one of those things were good. Anyway, it was horrible. I'm sorry. It's a whole lot easier to be honest, because I could stand up here and tell you some stories of like, yes, no, and I'm so righteous and pious. I'm not. I'm a real guy, right? We're real. Can we be real?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for us to be real, right? Okay. So anyway, that's the first story. The second story is actually sad. There's a young lady who came in. She's 14 years old. She came in pregnant. She had her baby. 9 months later, she came in pregnant at 15. 9 months later, she came in pregnant at 15. 9 months later, she came in pregnant at 16. 4 kids in 2.5 years. If I did the math right. I was living in Memphis. I was living in the projects. I was doing things that I thought I could live in both worlds. I thought I could have a professional job and then party on the weekends. And party on the weekends began to be partying on the weekends and Monday, party on the weekends Monday and Tuesday. And so I quit the job so that I could have a job that I could still afford to pay child support and pay my food costs and rent and still be able to afford to party. So I became a bouncer at a nightclub. Joined a gang. There was a gang that lived in an apartment complex. I went over the first time I was there. They had an arsenal that would put some of you guys the same. Some of you guys probably have a decent arsenal. Yeah? Here has yeah, you know who you are. John's like, yeah, that's me. But I've never seen that many guns in my life. And I'm talking long rifles, short rifle, pistol grip, Uzis, automatic, like just insane. And they were out like coffee cups on the table. But they took me in. I found a home, right? I didn't realize that that was a very dangerous place to be. When there are people with guns, other people with guns generally either want to exchange repelling bullets or take the guns that you have. Worked as a bouncer as part of this game, and our cover was we were doormen in clubs, but our real job was to make sure the police didn't come in and disrupt the drug trade that was going on inside the nightclub. That's what I did. Back up a little bit, I almost killed my ex-wife. We were in New Orleans, she said something smart. She kept complaining all the way down from Memphis to New Orleans, and she was standing with her back on the 3rd story of the parking garage with just a ledge right below her knee. And I had this overwhelming urge to push her over the edge. And I think my friends who were with me realized it because they looked at me and said, "No, her, don't." Another time in New Orleans, there was a guy who was beating his girlfriend, and we broke in the room, this gang and I, and grabbed him, and I held him by his ankles over the balcony of a 20-story hotel room. We have this term, and I'm going to Fast forward, I'll come back. We have this term in the cafe, I get. So just process that, I get. Yeah. So back to this. I'm living this life. Friends of mine are beginning to die. Friends of mine are beginning to be shot because they're dealing drugs. A good friend of mine who traveled back and forth from Memphis to Nashville, his name's Frankie, was murdered. He was selling cocaine, and was shot that day. Several of my friends got arrested, federal charges. I was sitting, it was April 20th, and I'm sitting in the park, Shelby Park in Memphis, and I just bought some drugs, and I had a backpack, and we were playing drums in a big circle, and the police officers roll up on bicycles, and they start talking to us, and I'm high. I mean, I'm not just high, I'm high. I can't really complete a whole sentence high, and I know that if I give the police officers an indication that I'm not sober or in my whatever right mind is, he is going to arrest me. I watch as one of the bicycling cops rides across the park, dumps a guy's backpack out, and arrests him. I sober up real quick, and I began to have this conversation with the police officer. I'm like, oh, this is Earth Day. How dare these guys park on the grass on Earth Day? Won't they respect nature? I'm pulling words out of my rear end, trying to keep from going to jail. And I get home and I realize that this is not the best option for me. I don't want my daughter, who is 3, to visit me in jail. I'm too smart for this. I'm managing a health food store, and in the health food store, I get to meet several people who come through. Everyone from my brain just stopped. Who's the guy on Cheers? Not Ted Danson. There you go.
Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson comes in. The guy who wrote the music for Shaft. Where's my music?
Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes comes through. Thank you very much. I knew someone. Thank you.
We
So
sure
a lot
are.
of people are coming through, and they are, I was looking for you, Jim. I thought you had it. I was looking for you, but Roger had me. Thank you, Roger. I'm meeting these famous people, but the people that I meet the most, the people who have the most impact on me, there's a Baptist guy who comes in and he says, after he's talking to me for a few minutes, he says, Herb, you're going the wrong way. That's an interesting way of phrasing words. Okay, whatever, man, here are your groceries. Be on your way. I'll be back. Okay, yeah, go on. The Church of Christ guy comes in, he's having a conversation with me. He says, Herb, this is a few days later, you're going the wrong way. Thanks. Have a good day. Russian Orthodox comes in, and they're buying food for their cafe, coffee shop around the corner from actually where I live. And he says, Herb, you're going the wrong way. You know something I don't know? He says, once you come to the cafe, I'll show you what we're doing. So I go to this cafe, this coffee shop, it's called Seraphim Rose. And there are friends of mine who I used to party with who have now become Christians, and they've had their names changed, and they live in the space upstairs above this coffee shop. And they're icons, and you know, however you feel about Russian Orthodoxy. For me, it was, this is very interesting. These guys found a place where they belong. These guys that I used to run the street with, that I partied with, that I grew up with, that I passed out with, they found a place to belong. And these Russian fathers began to come through and they began to preach. And I thought, this is really interesting. This is completely outside of anything that I have ever thought that I could imagine in my life ever before. Seventh-day Adventist comes into the cafe, or come to the grocery store, and they say, Herb, you know what? You're going the wrong way. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Let me go see. And they begin to talk about the prophecy of Daniel. And they take the prophecy of Daniel and they compare it to Revelation. And they're looking at this. And somebody from the Church of God in Christ comes into the grocery store and they say, Herb, I don't know, maybe this is the year for the term you're going the wrong way. But he says you're going the wrong way. Let me come to your church and see what you guys are talking about. And I go down, and Memphis, come to find out, Memphis is the home base of the Church of God in Christ. And so I go to this massive church, and I'm hanging out there. And then this woman walks in, and she has locks like mine. She's light-skinned, African-American. And she's standing in the line, and I moved from being a bagger to a manager, front manager of this health food store. That's how you do it. Upper bowl. I smoked a lot of marijuana, so I would get high in the morning, and I ride my bike to work, or I drive my purple Volkswagen Bug with hot leaf stickers on the vent windows to work. And then I'd go home on my lunch break and I would get high, and I would come back to work and I would eat all the day-old food because it's a health food store and they can't sell things without preservatives, and so I had a free meal every day. So she comes in and she's at my line and she's about to buy some liquid, something to drink, and she faints in my line. And I'm like, let me help you up. And I help her and I sit her down at the cafe and I begin to talk to her. She says, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but
Going the wrong way.
I'm like, okay, all right. Get it. And so my girlfriend, who was living with me at the time in an efficiency apartment, was ridiculous. She liked cats. We had 3 cats. I'll tell you why. We had, what does that have to do with anything? We had 3 cats in an efficiency apartment. There were 2 people, 3 cats, and a stoner. An efficiency apartment. What? And the shower was like the size of this podium. That was the size of the shower. So I had to step out so I could turn around and step back in. That's how small the shower was. Insane in this apartment. But I come to find out, I tell her what happened. I'm telling my girlfriend what's happened this entire time. She goes, well, I was raised Catholic. She's deaf. But I tell her, this is what's going on. And she said, well, let's go to a Catholic church. And so I go to a Catholic church and I hear, and we sit in the very back because that's where sinners sit when you go to church. It's in the very back. So if any of you are sitting in the back, Sunday morning. So I sat in the very back, and it was time for communion, and I don't know what that means. But apparently everyone in a Catholic church gets up, and they go forward for communion. It's not the little prepackaged juice with the wafers, pre-sealed lid, pop one off, pop the other one off. It wasn't that. It was a long line of people in a very narrow church building, and we took half a step, and I heard the weirdest thing, and I heard, the body, until I'm standing in front of the priest, he says, the body of Christ. And as I take a step, he goes, the body. The blood. And he's giving me the chalice for communion, and I'm drinking this. I'm not supposed to be in this space, number 1. Number 2, I'm not supposed to be taking communion. Trust me, I know now that was wrong. But then, I was so overwhelmed with communion and how serious that was. It was otherworldly. So I'm driving my car, my Volkswagen Bug, 1971 Super Beetle. I had a Toyota Celica seats in the front, in case you're wondering how I got in. Lowered, back 2 inches, down 2, back 2, right? And I'm driving, I'm like, God, if you want me, I'm yours. I just don't want to be a cookie cutter Christian who goes to church wearing a 3-piece suit carrying a desktop Bible. I don't want to be that kind of Christian. I want to see what you see. And I look over to my left, and there's an apartment complex. And in the apartment complex, I could see is that the walls had disappeared, and I saw people in their apartments. And that freaked me out. And I said, God, I just want to see what you want me to see. And I drove back to my efficiency apartment with my girlfriend, and I told her, us living together is wrong, you got to move out. So she reluctantly packed her stuff up and moved out. I'm a big guy, she can argue with me. Okay, fine, no. The next morning, my landlord calls me, and he says, Herb, I just bought a 2-bedroom house, and I'd like you to live in it. And I'm not going to charge you more than what I'm charging you for this efficiency apartment. So I'm moving from an efficiency apartment to a 2-bedroom house. Now watch this. I go to work that day, kind of praising God, because this is kind of like the first response of God directly to me. And God's like, hey, Herb, here's a 2-bedroom house. I'm like, that's God. Right? So I'm sober. I'm at work. I'm not going home. I don't come to work with the munchies. I'm not going home on my lunch break. I'm hanging out all day. I get home, and the band comes over to my efficiency apartment because we have a gig that night at a coffee shop. And I say, what do you guys think about covering some old hymns? I mean, we're at Memphis, that'd be awesome. And they say, explicative, no. Because I'm a good Christian boy now, so I won't say that. Anyway, so they left. Everyone left except for Stuart. And I said, Stuart, man, we have this show to do in 30 minutes. Why don't you call some of your friends and see if they'll show up and play with us, at least because we've already committed to doing the show. So we had the way our band was called Amy's Little Brother, and we had a big Tupperware container, and we had all these hand instruments in it. And so we would go to whatever place we were playing, and we would put all these instruments out on the tables, so whoever was there was part of the thing, right? So we go and do that, and I'm the lead singer, and I'm playing, and Stuart is playing the congas. That's what he's doing. He's just keeping time, and I'm doing this back and forth, and we're gigging and having a good time. And then walk these 2 guys with drums. One has a djembe, one has a doumbek, and I'm like, hey man, how's it going? And they're like, hey, and I'm like, all right. They set up on the stage behind us, and I'm like, all right, so Stuart's friends, cool. Keep going through the song. 2 songs later, I look back, and one of the guys has a Bible open on his drum. God got a sense of humor, don't you? We finish out the show, and we're on the front porch, the deck of the coffee shop. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? My name is Herb. Oh, my name is Steven. My name is Joey. And I say, hey, I appreciate you guys answering Stuart's call and coming and playing with us. He goes, oh, we don't know Stuart. We just had some drums in our car and thought it'd be cool to get up on stage and play with you. Who does that? Who does that? Who actually just look, I got some instruments in my car. There's a band playing. Who does that, right? And Joey says, no, yeah, I just got back from a long-term mission trip in Honduras. And I need a place to stay. Oh, you need a place to stay? Well, God just gave me a 2-bedroom house this morning. You can come live with me. And he says, okay. And so Joey, Singer, who has now adopted 3 kids, 2 kids himself, he's married. He and his wife adopted kids, he knew this. Begins to disciple me. He begins to disciple me. And he doesn't just disciple me and this is Genesis, and this is Exodus, and the biggest numbers. We go through Voice of the Martyrs, which is how people have died for their faith. That's the material he's using to disciple me. And we began to share the gospel with the community, the neighborhood, there on York Avenue New York Avenue in Memphis. Cooper Young area. The art scene. I like it. Lots of paychecks. That's how I came to Christ. That's just how I came to Christ. And that was 23 years ago. Since then, I met my wife at a Bible study back in Nashville, because a young lady at our Bible study in Memphis said, I have a hard time understanding God as my father because I don't have a good relationship with my own father. And God said, you need to go be a dad to your own daughter who was still living in Nashville. So I moved back to Nashville. I called a friend who I used to be a security guard with, who had cleaned up his life, and he lived in Nashville, and said, hey, you gotta, I wouldn't move back to Nashville. You got a place? Oh yeah, my roommate just moved out. I'm like, oh cool. I said, well, I'm gonna need a job. He said, well, there's a coffee shop around the corner. It's the third coffee shop. It's a coffee shop around the corner. So I go over to the coffee shop once I move in, and I get a job, and I'm managing the coffee shop. Go figure, right? My wife, now, her name's Angel. She's awesome. She really is awesome. Thank you. She is awesome. She's Italian, which, that makes her extra awesome. Like when I have cereal in the morning that she makes for me, it's Italian Cheerios. Pancakes is Italian pancakes. Why? Because she's Italian and everything she makes is... I don't mess with that. She tells me that, I'm like, yes ma'am. We have Italian eggs. All right. I could get in the way. I gained a lot of weight because of her. Good healthy weight. Anyway, met her at a Bible study because a friend of mine that I used to run the streets with in Nashville had become a Christian. And when I moved back, I said, hey, do you guys have a Bible study or anything you guys do? And he said, no. I said, well, let's start one. And so all these people who were secondaries in the Christian music industry, so dancers and producers and rappers and photographers, all got together. He was in this crowd, and so we got together and started doing this Bible study. My wife was a backup dancer for a Christian musician. And so she comes in one day, and I hug her, and I'm like, whoa! Now, mind you, before that, when I was moving to Nashville, I said, God is going to be you, my daughter, and me. I've already messed up before. I read Corinthians, letter to the church of Corinth by Paul, and he says, a man's devotion is divided. I'd rather be single. So God, I want to be single because I want to be fully divided. Not in my mind, but divided between you and my daughter, and that's it. I want to be fully devoted to you and my daughter, that's it. I don't want there to be anything else. 2 months later, I was married to my wife. At the coffee shop, on the lunch rush. That's the third coffee shop. At the coffee shop, we met a woman who was managing a program with the Boys and Girls Club in the projects around the corner from the coffee shop. And she asked if my wife would teach dance and I would teach art. And so my wife and I went over and started teaching dance and art. And the lady quit. And so the board said, Herb, would you like to be the director of this program? I have no experience directing youth programming whatsoever. Yes, I'll do it. So, I mean, right? So I'm doing that, and I'm talking to these kids, and some of these kids, it just blows my mind. I'm trying to watch the time. Some of these kids, it blows my mind because these kids are so conditioned to believe that the ceiling is this high. That's as far as they can reach. I'm talking to one of these young ladies, and my wife and I are asking her questions of all the students, and one of these young ladies, we say, what do you want to be as an adult? And she says, I want to have 4 kids and have my own project. That was her goal. These kids lived a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk from the stadium where the Titans played. None of these kids had ever been to the stadium where the Titans played. They didn't even been to the park that surrounds where the Titans played. They were so stuck. The ceiling was this. So we used the talents that we had and helped them expand, began taking them on trips. And I asked them, do you guys go to church anywhere? No, we don't go to church. Well, there was a Presbyterian church plant in the projects in the community center where we met. And I said, well, if I start going to church here, will you guys come with me? Yeah, sure. So I started going to the Presbyterian church there, and the kids started coming. And one of the young ladies got adopted by the pastor, and now is a wife and a mother. My wife and I work for a lot of fun people. I worked for Michael W. Smith for 6 years, managing Rocky Town, which is a youth experience in downtown Nashville. It's a skate park and a nightclub and a coffee shop and an after-school program. I'm trying to fast forward now much of the time. Worked at a school as a guy who would go to, in the summertime, I go to the kids' houses and I get to know the families so that when the kids came into the school, I knew their families. And these are kids who lived all around an industrial area, right? But I knew their families. I knew their grandmothers. I knew the brothers, the uncles, the cousins, the moms. I knew them because I spent time in their homes. And so when the kids came to school, there was a sense of frustration they might have, but there wasn't a disconnect because I knew their family. So if Johnny was having an issue or Jaquan was having an issue, I could call grandma, I could call mom. They would come to my office and sit. The last thing I did before I left Nashville, the two last things I did. One is total novelty. Novelty is I was in a video. Band Perry, some guys like country music. There's a band called the Band Perry, and there's a song called Done. Look it up when you get home, or later on we can watch it when we get done here maybe. I'm in the video. It was really cool. It was a whole day experience. I'm in this country music video. Anyway, that's like just novelty. That's extra. That has nothing to do with my character, whatever. It's just a cool experience I had. But the other thing that I did, which really was another foundational thing, was I got hired as a chaplain at an inpatient facility. So I was associate chaplain, associate director of pastoral care at an inpatient facility. And these kids are coming through, and adults are coming through, men and women coming through. And I got to spend time with them and hear their stories. And that set me up to come to Aliquippa because I was looking for something, and God was looking for me to look for something. And I was on LinkedIn, and I saw this position where they were looking for a director at a cafe. That was a music venue and an arts gallery that did outreach and community development. And they're looking for a director. And I'm like, you just checked all my boxes. What is going on? And I showed it to my wife. My wife is like, yes, apply. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's in Pennsylvania. She said, yeah, go ahead, apply. My wife now has a professional job. She graduated from Tribeca Nazarene University in Nashville. She's working for some security firm. She's doing great. And I apply and I get a phone interview. And then a Skype interview. They fly us in. As we're driving through the community, I'm like, this is like a vacation here. This is like Dollywood. There are all these, that's what I saw when I drove through Aliquippa. I don't know what you see, but what I saw was, this is like a vacation space. It was winter. It was actually this month, 6 years ago. And there are all these mom and pop shops. And there are people who were invested in their own community, and hadn't been sold out to the corporate entities, or there weren't a lot of big box stores, right? So actual investment in a community because the people themselves said, hey, I'm going to work in my community with my business and these entrepreneurs. And I saw colors when I drove down Franklin Avenue. I saw this beautiful array of colors and how bright and cheery it was. And I walked into the cafe, and there was a woman sleeping on the couch, wrapped up in a blanket, while other people were sitting around at tables enjoying a meal. And I thought to myself, if that woman is comfortable enough to sleep on a couch in a cafe, and the folks are comfortable enough for her to sleep on a couch in a cafe, I want to be in this kind of space. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's been 6 years today. There's a passage in Luke 16 that I want to read, and I'm going to go get it, and then we're going to go through a slideshow, but I'm going to read it first. Has this been helpful so far, you guys? Haven't lost anybody?
No.
Some of you guys are checking your watches. That's cool. I checked mine too. I had 2 phone calls just now. This passage has always bothered me. But I'm going to read to you anyway. Maybe it'll make sense. There's a rich man, Luke 16, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked, "What is it that I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig. I don't do outdoor labor. And I'm ashamed to beg." I got too much pride for that. "I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their home." So he called each and one of his master's debtors. He asked them first, "How much do you owe your master?" 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 400. Then he asked the second, "How much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use your worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings." Use your worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. And I read that passage, and it still confounds me sometimes. And I just think, though, like, this guy was dishonest, right? He was lying and cheating, and his master commended him. And it's Jesus telling a parable. And so Jesus is using this as an example, commending someone who was dishonest. And on the surface, I'm like, yeah. But then I read a commentary, because, commentaries are good for that. And then I asked God, which I probably should have asked God first. Did read the commentary, but I'm, again, being human, so just being honest, right? Honesty. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. The shrewd manager is me. I'm the shrewd manager, and I was unfaithful with what I've been entrusted with. How many of you here woke yourselves up this morning? How many of you here were woken up by God? How many of you here are breathing because God is allowing you to breathe? Let's try this again. How many of you woke yourselves up this morning? You see what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Like, we've been given something. We've been given breath in our lungs. We've been given the ability. We have somewhere in our mind thought that I can use all these gifts, these time, talent, and treasure that I have for me. To make me feel good, to get what I want, to move my agenda forward. That's what I did for multiple years. I want to move my agenda forward. This is what I want. This is what I'm doing. This is what he says in James, all boasting is sin. I'm going to go here and do this with this money. We're going to go do this. His encouragement is, you should say, if God wills, we're going to go do such and such. Right? Mm-hmm. So all the way back to my youth pastor, he was using his time, his talent, his treasure to pour into me something I didn't realize he was pouring into me. Those people were coming in taking a risk. Those 5 people were coming in taking a risk saying, "Herb, you're going the wrong way." They were using their time, their talent, their treasure. They could have shopped anywhere. They decided to shop at the store that I was in because God sent them there. I'm watching my time in case you're wondering why I'm talking faster. God sent them there to engage me. To say, hey, Herb, you're going the wrong way. He sent Joey and Stephen to show up at the coffee shop and bring their drums and give them courage to bring their instruments up on the stage and play music. Well, the guy they don't even know, nor they don't know the songs, they're playing the music. They use their time, their talent, their treasure specifically to gain friends. Because our time, our talent, our treasure on earth will end. At some point, we won't have any more time. Our talent will be gone, and our treasure will go to somebody else. Right? So the question is, what do we do with our time, our talent, and our treasure? How do we use that to gain eternal friends? So I'm an evangelist. That's what I do. That's who I be. Bad English, I know. But that's who I be. I was talking to a couple 2 weekends ago. I had the pleasure of performing their ceremony, and one of them had some history that the other one didn't know about. And when she found out about the history that he had that she didn't know about, it changed her view of her husband. And she was distraught. Now, this history was pre-them, and he thought it better not to tell her because this is pre-you. This doesn't really have any bearing on our relationship. She was beside herself, like shrieking in the phone. They live in a different state, and I'm talking to them, and I'm trying to walk around as at night. I'm talking, I'm listening to them talk, and I'm trying to encourage her, and she is shrieking at a level that is, like when the 8-month-old child won't stop screaming. Anyone? You know what I'm talking about? Like, give it back to his mama. Where is his mama? Please, somebody find this baby's mama. It was that kind of shrieking. And God said, her. Like, while I'm walking around my block, like I probably walked, like I was going around the walls of Jericho. It was like 7 times. I just kept walking around my block. And God said, her. The husband is redeemed. He has repented. He is forgiven for that. Right? And if he's forgiven for that, if he's redeemed, she is married to a guy who's redeemed. That's more important than his past. And so I tell her, hey, this guy is redeemed. You are married to a guy who was redeemed by the Redeemer. That's more important than his past. As a matter of fact, his past is like you go into a graveyard and trying to dig up bones, trying to reformulate a person. It's gone. Right? I say that to say, there are things that we've done in our past, and if we've repented of them, they're gone. Somehow they still determine what we do with our time, our talent, and treasure. There's some stories and narratives that we tell ourselves from the past about how we were kids, and how me, Herb, my shoes were too big for my body, my feet were too big for my body. And so I still will go and buy shoes because of my childhood trauma. Yeah, I will do certain things because of some stuff that God's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That stuff's gone. So we spend time in the cafe helping people process that. We help folks like you understand what you can do with your time, your talent, your treasure. We help people who are marginalized. Our mission is to reach the least, the last, and the lost with the gospel of Christ, and to bring them into the life and ministry of the church. So it's a 3-part. It's reaching marginalized folks with the gospel, and to tie them into a church so they can be discipled. We're not the church. That's not our job. Our job is just to reach folks. That's what we do with our time, our talent, and treasure. That's what we do with it. Yeah? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a slideshow.
It's a long password.
It is. Ha! Yeah, do slideshows. You can make that large. So this is basically an executive summary about the cafe. So you guys get to see this, and I'm just going to talk through this real quickly because I want you to get to the question part of the question, which will be, what are you doing with your time, talent, and treasure for eternal purposes, and how can you increase what you do with your time, talent, and treasure for eternal purposes? That literally is a question that you will discuss at your tables if you so choose. So Church Army, where are we at? Okay, Church Army started in 1882 in London, so I'm a part of Church Army. We've been around for a long time. We're in over 20 different countries. We fulfill the command to go. We help motivate churches to step outside the door. So we train churches on how to be missional in their own community in the context of who they are. Obviously, we reach the lost with the gospel. I said that we connect people to the church. That's Church Army. It's early days. 1882 founded in England, arrived in America in 1931. 80s are focused on Bible, refocused on Bible teaching and reaching the lost under our national director, God rest his soul, George Pierce. 96 to 2014, plan was based on Steve Brightwell and John Stanley, who started the cafe. 2014, we got a new director, national director, Greg Miller. Renewed our emphasis on active evangelism. We would bring these carts out into the ward, into these slag piles and industrial areas, and we would do outdoor evangelism. That's some of our roots. Next slide, please. So one time at Grounds Café, we're relational. A lot of ministries are transactional, right? Like how many people came in, how many people did we serve? We got to make sure we keep all these numbers. We care less about numbers and more about relationships. Again, we're looking for building eternal relationships. That's it. That's what we do. So as evangelists, that's what we're about. We walk with people from isolation to community. A lot of people are isolated. Ask the question oftentimes, what is the definition of poverty? Poverty is not a lack of resources, it's a lack of relationships. We got a lot of college students who don't have resources, but they have relationships. So poverty is not a lack of resources, it's a lack of relationships. So we try to help walk people from isolation to community. Again, there's our mission. We do that through listening and offering dignity. If you come to the cafe, you get a cup of coffee, and it's 50 cents, and it's fair trade Colombian coffee. It's not Folgers, it's actual coffee that we grind there. It's roasted locally. No disrespect to anyone else who drinks subhuman coffee. Anyway, but it's good coffee. You come and you want water, you get a glass, and then we give you a carafe of chilled water to drink. Everyone who asks for water gets a glass. That's big. If you come in and you can't afford a meal and you're hungry, we don't just give you stuff because that's actually enabling. We say, hey, can you help me by wiping the tables down? Would you mind washing some dishes? And they'll get a full meal. Because that's dignity. There's dignity in work. Right? That was just something that was pre-fall. God gave us work. Pre-fall. Adam had a job before Eve and the whole tree and persimmons. We desire to help the entire community heal and come to a relationship with Christ. We're not just about those folks. We recognize that anyone who is not giving their life to Christ is still crazy. And I use that word intentionally because our minds have not been renewed. So we are still crazy. We are still worshiping ourselves. And it's crazy to worship myself. Once I realize that God should be worshipped, I'm crazy not to. Does that make sense? Okay, I know some people get a little offended when I use that term. Moving on. That's me talking to a group of kids from Geneva. This is Taylor Lynn, Loretta Lynn's granddaughter. I met her last summer. And I was blessed to preach at her grandmother's campground this past October. But she came up this spring and sang and performed. It was phenomenal. Basically, whatever. Well, a few of our events, we do open mic night, we do coffee and prayer, clinical treatment facility, open mic nights. This is Nick. He is 72 years old. He comes and plays his trumpet. There are other folks there of varying ages. So open mic night, actual bands, actual music, actual instruments. We go to do coffee and prayer clinical, which is a methadone treatment facility. We help people get off of heroin. So it's a schedule to help people get out of that. We do a monthly Veterans Appreciation Breakfast. It's only $5. If you're not a veteran, it's free. If you're not a veteran, it's $5. We do AA and recovery meetings. We go to the jail every Sunday, Beaver County Jail, both men and women. We do a Tuesday morning Bible study. Some people say that it's the best Bible study in the county. We do urban mission trainings, and we do women's ministry meetings. My wife runs a women's ministry meeting. She does making takes with essential oils and facial scrubs and stuff that make people feel good about themselves and their skin. But she does that with women who she's training. So these women who are coming out of incarceration or they're coming out of addiction, she's teaching them these skills so they have a skill. And they have a feeling, a sense of like, I have something to offer. I'm not just a drag on society. Our Ministries, Earth Angel Apothecary, just talked about that. We're over in Beaver Falls as well. We have a guy who is a recent graduate from Trinity Seminary, and he has a presence in Beaver Falls. He's walking around, and he is meeting with the people who are marginalized there. He's sharing the gospel. He's hanging out with folks who are have co-occurring conditions, and he's connecting them again to churches and to the resources available to them. Spring Street, we have a garden. It has 18 garden beds for people who are living in apartments. They can come and garden. We also have a greenhouse that needs some work. We love having folks come out and help us with that. And then the Bridge is a monthly gathering. It's like a quasi-church. We don't do communion. We do have some worship. We have a pool wheel. And there's like a semi-sermonette. We really don't want people to go, oh, well, Uncommon Grounds is my church. That's not what we want. So we're really serious about not making that a church. We want it to be like an introduction to a worship service. Just said that. Go to the next one. That's all. That's not my wife. Oh, that's me. That's awesome. Okay. Go to the next one. Sorry. That's the garden. It's awesome. It's right there in the urban context. This is a graduate from Messiah College. She's now married. Right there, this young lady. And she helped us for a couple of years, and now she lives in Kansas. Okay, yep. That's the bridge, I just told you about that. And then this is the park. We were going to have, you guys, we were going to do a movie in the park last night. It was just a little too chilly for that. But this is actually a park area. We're going to have a stage over here, like an amphitheater, a kids' playground over here, and over here we're going to have cooking space. So we have a lot of folks who are entrepreneurs who cook on the sidewalk. They make meals and people just stop and they buy things. And I love this and this kind of industrious, like entrepreneurial spirit that we see, and we want to help foster that. So we're going to have a space there for them. And then there's a video that they did, Channel 4 did, and so we're going to watch that real quick. Man, that's a lot of words.
Yeah. I'm good, man.
You got, no, go back. Click it twice. Click that. Yeah, there it is. See down there in the bottom? That one?
To a community champion who's creating a gathering place for friends and strangers.
Pittsburgh's Action News 4 reporter David Kaplan takes us to Aliquippa for a visit to Herb Bailey's Uncommon Grounds.
In any community, there's a big difference between looking and listening.
This place, it helps me.
Look in Aliquippa and you'll see signs of what used to be. Steel mills and industry that once let this town thrive are no more.
What was left were people who were literally in survival mode.
Listen, and you'll see people's desires, ambitions are as strong as anywhere else.
There are people here who have hopes and dreams, who want a different narrative.
Herb Bailey facilitates that narrative.
Paul, how you doing today, man?
He runs Uncommon Grounds, right in the heart of Aliquippa. It's equal parts community and counseling center, music venue, coffee shop, restaurant. Bailey insists this place is not normal.
Having a place where people felt comfortable to be, put a period there.
It's a pretty simple concept to just be. But in Aliquippa, a town of used to be, the idea of a place where people can gather, listen, eat, do whatever, has value.
I have PhD folks here, folks who have a 5th grade education, working side by side, volunteering side by side. That's beautiful, right? And that's where I want to be. That's the kind of place that I want to exist in.
I am a recovering heroin addict.
Maggie Dan Mueller tried everything to help her move on. Uncommon Grounds was a place for her with no judgment. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live. This place is a reminder that while we all have problems, we're all human.
Everybody needs help. Everybody needs a second chance. Everybody deserves that. Everybody deserves grace. And so this is like a perfect place for that.
Yeah.
Herb Bailey's background is in ministry. The idea of all people simply being with one another. Here is his idea of a kingdom.
If I use my imagination of saying, your kingdom come on earth as is in heaven, it looks like this, where people are comfortable just to be. Like, I can just come and hang out. I can bring my hurts, habits, and hang-ups, and people aren't going to reject me because of it.
The strength of a community lies not in how it looks, but how it sounds. The nicest neighborhood is nothing without good neighbors. In Aliquippa, David Kaplan, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.
So how can you help? You can pray for our ministries. I gave you a long list of them. You can volunteer your time. Some of you guys are retired. I've got a list of things over here in my bag that I can pass out. Wait, I didn't want to give you too much material, so you're looking at that and not listening to me. I learned that when I was in school. And you can provide financial gifts. Again, we are relational, not transactional. So if you give money, I expect you to come see where your money's going. I don't expect you to give money and be like, well, there you go, God bless you. You know. And we prefer monthly investment, not at one time, like monthly. Like, what does it look like to do $50, $100 a month to see something like this continue? So that's really what it is. The last few slides, there you go. Some key points. Prayer. It's, key points to give opportunity for our team to listen and share the gospel, produce staff and volunteer. The emotional, physical, and mental, spiritual healing occur throughout the Pittsburgh area. Financial provisions, and covering our staff and volunteers in prayer. We are on the front lines. I take the month of October off every year as a way to reset because it is very heavy. I can tell you some stories of the heaviness from helping a mom who was an addict. She held her stillborn child all night long, and so they called us in to help to convince this young lady to give her stillborn child to the hospital. Right, so like that's some of the stuff we do. My wife was just in the hospital 2 days ago with another woman who was in that video who just had a baby. Her boyfriend, one night stand, died in a car accident on Easter. Right, so she's dealing with this. Her next oldest child is 14. She's 40 years old, and now she's having a child again, completely stressed. So my wife is there comforting and ministering to her. The guy was walking down the street 2 days ago, Monday, and he was angry because he didn't have coffee. And so I had coffee, I gave it to him, I gave him a ride, we went up to Westview and went to a Bible study together. He's currently 11 days sober from cocaine addiction, right? Like crack cocaine addiction, not just cocaine addiction. So, like, that's the world we live in, and we make no apologies. I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be martyrized or heroized. I'm not sure that's a word. Heroized, is that a word? Today it is. It is now. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying we all have the ability to be heroes. I'm not anything special. As a matter of fact, if anything, I shouldn't be standing here. I should not be involved. I should be under the jail, right? But I recognize that I've been redeemed. I recognize that I've been redeemed. So the things that some of us say we have to do, like I have to drive into town, I have to walk the dog, I have to wash my kids, I have to take out the trash. I see that as I get to. I get to take out the trash. I get to wash the dogs and watch the kids. I get to go grocery shopping. I get to drive in the traffic. Why? Because I deserve death. I deserve death. I have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death. But the gift of God is eternal life. And so we have bracelets. I've got them in my truck. If you're really interested, I can bring them. I wasn't sure if you guys would be interested in bracelets. You know, it's kind of whatever. But it says I get to one. And that really is just a reminder for me to stay humble.
Say it again.
I get to. It's a reminder for me to stay humble. It's a reminder because it's easy to go, well, I did this. I woke myself up. I got myself that job. I got myself through college. I got myself this wife. I made these kids. I bought that car. I. And really, if it wasn't for God, you would not exist. Sorry. It's volunteering. Volunteering. There it is right there. These are ways you can volunteer: cafe staff, garden maintenance, dinner and prep for. It's not church or marches anymore. It's something different, but we still do it. Serve coffee and pray people at the clinical treatment facility. I just had a guy fall off who was doing this, and so now we need a person to go with another young lady to pray with people at the treatment facility. So seriously, it's Thursday morning from 8 to 10:30. It's like 2.5, 3 hours tops, half-hour prep time. groundskeeping at the cafe or park, we've got that park space that needs to be cut and maintained, needs to be seeded and watered. Street presence in Beaver Falls, you want to walk around Beaver Falls, some of you guys know Beaver County, and you can come and help us with the vets breakfast. It's one Saturday a month. Financial, would you consider partnering with us financially? We're still seeking to raise an additional $40,000 for this year to continue the cafe ministry. That is almost it. And finally, come down to the cafe and taste and see that the Lord is good. Lord, I thank you for these men. Lord, I thank you that you have put them in a position to worship you. Lord, you've made us to worship you. You've made us as your instruments of grace and mercy here. You tell us that it is good when we dwell together. Lord, and these men are here dwelling together. Lord, I pray that you propel them. Lord, not anything I said, but Lord, your Holy Spirit would inspire them to reach outside of their own four walls, the four walls of their mind, to be inspired in the imagination of their heart through your Holy Spirit, to be more engaged than they already are. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
So we've got a couple minutes here. On your tables, just coincidentally, if you have been to our Saturday morning breakfast this fall, well, you just heard what you heard, right? In October, you heard from Light of Life Missions and the needs they have in the north side of Pittsburgh. Dave Anderson leads a group to serve men, homeless men, meals the second Saturday of every month. Meet here at 4:30, you're back here at 6:15. Wonderful ministry. How many guys have done that? Yeah, look at all the hands going. Yeah. And Pittsburgh Project, Wayne Younger spoke to us in September. Kevin Steele is currently leading a group, fourth Saturday of each month. Goes down to Pittsburgh Project, 9 o'clock, by noon, 1 o'clock, they're done, serve some chill and come home. Again, ministry in the north side. I really believe, men, that God is leading us to not just sit and listen, but to go and do. These speakers just sort of appear on our plate despite our best efforts to do otherwise. So on your table, put your name down, contact information. If you're a member of this church, I can get your contact information, skip it. And just put a check mark under one of those or all of those and say, I'm interested. Please give me more information when that's time. No commitment right now. Your time is valuable. But perhaps, something tapped you on the shoulder this morning, or perhaps last month or September, and said, you know, perhaps there's a little bit of time when I can go do a little more, be a little more than I have been. So just put your name and a check mark there, and we'll just give you information on how perhaps your world can expand into God's kingdom a little more than it is now. And I know that I'm speaking to a lot of men that are already involved. Thank you. But perhaps there's something else. We've just about come to the end of our time. If you'd like to stay and chat a little bit to the men at your table, there's a couple questions that were posed. Perhaps maybe not now, but perhaps somewhere. Maybe God is wanting you to use your gifts, the gifts He gave you, to be used elsewhere. And so perhaps that's some thought. Maybe have a conversation with another man where the two of you can march forward and serve together. Put another round of applause for her. What I'd like you to do is grab that chair that you're sitting in, and I want you to bring it right in here, and I'd like you to sit right here, men.